Code monkey, get up, get coffee. Code monkey, go to job. Code monkey, have boring meeting with boring manager Rob. Rob say code monkey very diligent, but his output stink. His code not functional or elegant. What do code monkey think? Code monkey think maybe manager wanna write login page himself. Code monkey not say it out loud. Code monkey not crazy, just proud. Code monkey like Fritos. Code monkey like Tab and Mountain Dew. Code monkey very simple man. Big warm fuzzy secret heart. Code monkey like you. Code monkey like you.
What's new, Dino Dudes? It's me, the Media Raptor, and you know why we're here. It's the Media Raptor Reviews, and we're reviewing the 2006 movie Hellboy 2: The Golden Army. It's the sequel to Hellboy. That should be pretty obvious. Now, while I did enjoy the first Hellboy movie, I thought it was good, but it wasn't the most memorable film in the world. I love this movie. Hellboy 2: The Golden Army is, I think, honestly, one of my favorite superhero movies because it's lighthearted, it's emotional, it can be dark, it can be epic, it can be funny. It can do pretty much everything you would want in both a superhero movie and just a movie in general. Let's start with the writing. So we have a very interesting mythos this time as to what this Golden Army is. These mechanical warriors created by an elf king a long time ago. Yet he feared what could be done with them, so he had them sealed away. Naturally, of course, somebody, his son, wants to use them to take over the world because, well, there was a treaty between humans and elves, and there's a whole story behind it that I don't want to spoil. But yeah, naturally, it's your kind of typical, the guy wants to take over the world, and so naturally Hellboy is called in to do something about it. Now, what this movie gets right is partially the world building. I'll get to that in a minute. But furthermore, they continue to advance the characters. I've seen some movies where a character goes through a lot of change in the first movie, and then they never continue growing. To be honest, that was kind of my issue with The Amazing Spider-Man, is he went through the whole great power, great responsibility halfway through the first movie, then all the way through the second, he just didn't really change at all. In fact, even in the old Raimi trilogy, they made a point out of the first one being him learning responsibility, then learning how to balance his life and learning how to balance his responsibilities. In the third one, what were they trying to teach in the third one? I love the third one, and I can't even remember what they were trying to teach. Point is, the characters keep growing, and it certainly is very interesting to see how Hellboy and Liz's relationship continues to change. Hellboy has been given a lot more kind of comedic elements now, but at no point does it devolve into a full-blown comedy. But there certainly is quite a bit more comic relief and more humanizing moments with Hellboy. In fact, one fantastic scene involves Hellboy and Abe singing karaoke. I'm not going to say why, but it certainly is entertaining. Furthermore, the elf prince, he's not just a one-dimensional I want to take over the world because humans suck villain. They actually do give him quite a bit of personality and quite a bit of backstory to try and explain why he is the way he is. Sure, he is admittedly a little bit one-dimensional, but this movie isn't trying to have the deepest villain. It certainly has a villain who is threatening, cool, memorable, and that's really what it needs. Furthermore, his sister, they have an interesting thing where the two of them are connected. I've seen that in a few stories, and I do always like that because they have to figure out how can we stop this guy without, hurting the person he's attached to. It's always been an interesting storytelling tactic I've always kind of been a fan of. But what this movie really gets right is the world building. Excuse me. Guillermo del Toro directed this, and really, if you know anything he's done, Pan's Labyrinth, Pacific Rim, you know this guy loves to create the most amazing and visually stunning just worlds, whole sets and whole worlds. He loves to create a whole new Earth, essentially, with a whole story, whole races of creatures you've never seen or thought of before. His storytelling really shines here because there are multiple scenes when we actually get to see this mythological world that exists at the same time as our world. And Del Toro must have been having a field day when he did this, because believe me, like the Goblin Village, the Stone Teller, I forget the thing's name, but it's like this angel of death essentially near the end. And part of this has to do with the makeup, which has gotten so much better now. Like, it's just so well done. It just is really cool to watch, and you feel like they could spend an entire movie just in this world. In fact, one of my few complaints is that they don't spend more time in this whole underworld of, like, mythological creatures. I wanted to see more of it. But for what it is, where I did have a bit of a problem with the pacing in the previous movie, this one moves much faster, getting to the beats, the points, the plot, and eventually the solution in a much quicker way. I believe it's about the same length as the first movie, but they certainly added more action to it, which does help. Not only that, the action's been kicked up a lot. So in the first movie, you know, he was fighting some hellbeasts and Nazis and stuff like that, and here... give me a moment. Hellboy essentially has to fight an earth elemental. For those of you who don't know what that is, allow me to give you sort of a rough idea of what an elemental could look like. Where is it in here? Water, fire, here we go. One of these things. Granted, it looks a lot cooler than that, and the CG still looks pretty darn good, but yeah, Hellboy is to take on one of those things, and it's an awesome fight scene. Part of that is helped by the fact that anybody who may have even turned in the hint of a slightly off-brand performance in the previous film, they've kicked it up a notch, everyone is giving it their all, and it's great. I really don't have much else to say aside from the fact that Ron Perlman is still amazing, Doug Jones is still amazing, everyone is still great. They really make you believe these aren't characters, these are the people you're watching. You don't look at it and go, hey, that's Ron Perlman. I go, hey, that's Hellboy. But then again, I think really when it comes to Hellboy, Ron Perlman would have been my first casting choice. And apparently Del Toro and Magnolia both thought the same thing, which that's a fun tidbit for those of you who didn't know. Anyhow, special effects, there was a lot, and I mean a lot, of miniatures and set building and makeup. It should have won an Oscar, honestly. I'm kind of curious if it was at least nominated for one. I'm going to check that real quick. But believe me, watching this movie, there were so many times when I actually would pause it and just sort of look at the screen going, wow. I cannot begin to imagine how much time and effort they put into making each one of these. And it really shows. Hang on. No, it doesn't seem to have been nominated. Which is too bad, because believe me, the makeup, the miniatures, the sets, everything. The gore, the practical effects, the costumes, everything is great. And speaking of everything is great, so is the soundtrack. If you're a fan of Barry Manilow, like I am actually, you're going to enjoy this soundtrack. Trust me. Camera work, well, in the first one there was a lot of very rapid cuts, and sometimes it can kind of make you a little confused as to what was going on. Here, they used the cuts more strategically to make it a better action film. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm giving Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, 3.5 Raptor Claws out of 4. If you like the first one, you're going to love the second one. If you didn't like the first one, give this one a chance, because it feels like it's much more of just a, hey, you know what? Let's just have a superhero movie. Let's just have fun with it. It's fun, action-packed, and I really do enjoy it. Anyhow, that's all for this episode, so make sure you come back soon. And until next time, this has been the Meteor Raptor saying keep cool, and I'll see all you Dino Dudes around. Later.